Assalamu alaikum. The topic of today's discussion is air pollution. Actually, it is the remaining part of lecture 3 that I have already explained. So, we were talking about the effect of air pollution and the sources of different type of air pollution. So talking about these vehicular emission, trucks and buses run on the diesel, which has high sulfur content. The old engine emit vast quantities of the suspended particulate matter, leading to the heavy air pollution in many cities. So the suspended particulate matter, as I have already discussed in detail in my previous lecture, this is the matter which has been dispersed, and these are finely divided solid or liquid particles that may be dispersed through the air from conversion processes, industrial activities, or the natural sources. So these suspended particulate matter leading to heavy air pollution in many cities. Pollution in the air is affecting mostly the health of the people, particularly children are more prone to the diseases. According to a case study in Delhi alone, 1 out of every 10 school children suffers from the asthma. Actually, what is the process? These toxic air pollutants irritate the eyes and cause inflammation of the respiratory tract, and the person feeling these type of condition is going to be affected, especially in their lungs. If the person already suffers from the respiratory illness, air pollution may lead to the condition becomes chronic at the later stages. It can also cause severe diseases of the skin allergy in the human beings. Many pollutants also depress the immune system, making the body more prone to the various kinds of infections. For example, carbon monoxide from the automobile emissions can cause headache at lower level, whereas if the concentration exceeds at higher level, there will be a mental impairment and even death will be happen within a few seconds. On a large scale, air pollution leads to the acid rain, ozone layer depletion, and global warming that I have already explained about acid rain, ozone layer depletion. So what are the different control measures for the air pollution? As we already know that prevention is better than cure. So we should reduce the use of fossil fuel, increase the use of renewable energy, and we should use those fuel only that have low sulfur and ash content. The vehicular fuels must be improved in their quality, uses an unleaded petrol, encourage all the people to use the public transport or walk or use a cycle as opposed to the private vehicles. Ensure that houses, schools, restaurants, and the playgrounds are not located on the busy streets. Plant more trees along the busy street as they remove particulates, carbon dioxide, lead, and many other toxic heavy metal, and they can also absorb noise. If we talk about the industrial sector, then each and every kind of the waste disposal site should be situated outside the city, preferably on the downwind of the city. Catalytic converters should be used to control the emission of these gases, especially carbon monoxide and various volatile organic compounds. So the catalytic converter is an exhaust emission control device that reduces toxic gases and pollutants in exhaust gas from an internal combustion engine into less toxic pollutants by catalyzing a redox reaction. That is, it is an oxidation and a reduction reaction in which these devices are used to control the toxic gases and the pollutant that exhaust gases from the various processes. In industrial centers, emissions rate from all the industries should be restricted to the permissible level by each and every industry. As according to NEQS, that is National Environmental Quality Standards, and Environmental Protection Department of the government has set up a scale of all these pollutants, including toxic and poisonous pollutant. According to that scale, if the concentration of these pollutants will be exceeded, then that permissible limits or that above over the scale, then these pollutants are considered to be toxic and are not said to be safely used. So these are actually, the scales are actually the permissible limits that has been set up by the EPDA Department of Government. So the sufficient supply of oxygen should be ensured for the combustion chamber and adequate temperature so that combustion process will be completed there by eliminating much of the smoke consisting of partly burned ashes and dust. So scrubbers, cyclone that houses electrostatic precipitators in the manufacturing processes used as the mechanical devices. The air pollutant collected must be carefully disposed, and they should follow all the act and the laws which has been governed by the government. The factory fumes are dealt always within the chemical treatment. The smoke from the various industry is leasing without taking any precautionary measures, and that is the mixture of all sulfides of nitrogen and sulfurs, by which the health of the human beings is badly affected and they are more prone to the diseases. With this, the air pollution introduction, causes, types, effects has been ended up. One of the most severe effects of the air pollution is the photochemical smog. So smoke is a type of air pollution that is a combination of two words, smoke and fog. So that refers to as a smoky fog. It is a mixture of air pollutants, including nitrogen oxides and the other chemical compounds that combine with sunlight to form ground level ozone that hangs like a heavy haze over the many cities in the industrialized countries. So basically, the word smoke is derived from the two words smoke and fog. It is yellowish or blackish fog formed mainly by the mixture of huge variety of pollutants in the atmosphere. Smoke occurs mainly because of air pollution and the mixture of various gases with the dust and water vapor. It also refers to as the hazy air. So how the smog is formed in our ecosystem? As already described, is a kind of air pollution originally named for the mixture of smoke and fog in air. Classic smoke results from the large amount of the coal burning in an area and is caused by a mixture of smoke and sulfur dioxide. So it is formed by various atmospheric pollutant or gases by adding the ground level ozone and fine particles. When the sunlight and its heat react with the gases, these gases and fine particles in the atmosphere, so as a result of these mixtures, the smoke is formed. The ground level ozone and fine particles are released in the air due to the complex photochemical reactions between volatile organic compound, VOC, sulfur dioxide, SO2, and the nitrogen oxides and noxious gases. These all VOC, sulfur dioxide, and the noxious gases are called as precursors. The main sources of these precursors are pollutants that are directly emitted into the air by gasoline and diesel run vehicles, industrial plants, and heating due to the human activities. So it is a big problem today in the Beijing, China, and in many other cities. London is where it is first happened, but coal fires are now illegal in London. In cities like Los Angeles, it is the exhaust fume of the cars which cause the smoke. Delhi is supposed to be the most polluted city on the earth. Smog caused lung diseases, increased the death rate. According to one estimate, air pollution causes the deaths of about 10,500 people in Delhi every year. So smog is a familiar and serious problem in the London from the 19th century to the mid of 20th century during the Industrial Revolution. These are all the pictorial representation of London smog. Polluted air is affecting the health of people, particularly children. So in the urban areas, traffic is one of the most and the major sources of air pollutant. The mixture of vehicle exhaust, secondary pollutants formed in the atmosphere, evaporative emission from the vehicles, and non-combustion emissions, for example, roads, dust, is referred to as the traffic-related air pollution. The second major causes of air pollution and the smoke is the high temperature and sunshine by calming winds. Temperature inversion is a reversal of the normal behavior of temperature in the troposphere, that is the region of the atmosphere nearest the Earth's surface, in which a layer of cool air at the surface is overlaid by a layer of warmer air. Under normal conditions, air temperature usually decreases with increase in height. So basically, the human or the man-made smog is produced due to the coal emission, vehicular emission, industrial emissions, and forest agriculture fires. While the modern smoke is due to the vehicular emission, internal combustion engines, industrial fumes that react in the atmosphere, and last but not the least is called photochemical smoke. So it is also called as the modern smoke. The combustion of biomass or the biofuel for the agricultural residue removal and domestic use for cooking, heating is a major source of smoke emission, in addition to the large-scale savanna and the forest fire on the global scale. So an internal combustion engine is a heat engine in which the combustion of the fuel occurs with an oxidizer, usually air, in a combustion chamber that is an integral part of the working fluid flow circuit. Industrial fumes or the industrial smoke are those products of the manufacturing industries which make it into the air, either inside the plant or outside. Some are generated by the manufacturing processes itself, while the others are as a consequence of using highly concentrated chemicals during the production. Stubble burning in neighboring agriculture area is very important. Atmospheric pollution level. The stubble burning is intentionally setting the fire to straw stubble that remains after the grains like paddy, wheat straw, when these crops have been harvested with a specific season. This practice was widespread until in the 19th century, when the government increasingly restricted its use. So, atmospheric pollution level has been observed into the many countries like Los Angeles, Beijing, Delhi, Lahore, Mexico, Tehran, and many other cities, and it is increasing day by day. It may also cover the inversion that traps pollution close to the ground. In London and Chicago, people are facing problems within this type of industrial smoke. Main causes of the smoke are oxides and VOCs, that is volatile organic compound, and oxides of nitrogen that combine with the sunlight to form smoke. Major smoke occurrences often are linked to heavy motor vehicle traffic, high temperature, sunshine, and calm winds. Weather and geography affect the location and severity of the smog, as temperature regulates the length of the time it takes for smog to form. Ozone level or the summer smoke, it forms only when the pollutants such as oxides of nitrogen and volatile organic compounds react together in the presence of sunlight. A gas called ozone is formed as a result of this chemical reaction. When the temperature inversion occurs, that is when the warm air stays near the ground instead of rising, the wind is calm, smoke may remain trapped over city for the days. This is normal pattern of how the cooler air mixes within the warmer air to create the smoke. But in days of smoke, when the temperature inversions occur, when the warmer air stays near the ground instead of rising to the top level, and it remains trapped over a city for the days. Ironically, smoke is often more severe further away from the sources of pollution because many chemical reactions that produces the smoke takes place at that time in the atmosphere. Smog is produced only when the warm air mass moving over an area is capped due to the warmer air layer sitting over a city and prevents the normal mixing of cooler densing air. The air instead becomes still, and over time, lack of mixing causes pollutant to become trapped under this temperature inversion, developing significant amounts of the smog. So there are many different types of smoke. First one called as industrial smoke or the reducing smoke. Sources are pollution from the burning of the coal and oil that contains sulfur component in the larger concentrations. They consist mainly of oxides of sulfur in the form of sulfur dioxide, sulfur trioxide, soot, and ash. That is the particulate matter, and the sulfuric acid. Soot is a deep black powder flaky substance consisting largely of amorphous carbon, which is produced by incomplete burning of the organic matter. Actually, these two terms, soot and ash, they are fundamentally different material, but both accumulate at the same concentration. Soot is normally removed layer from the through regeneration, which burns off the soot, leaving the ash behind. Ash, on the other hand, by definition is incombustible and must be removed from the upper layer through some type of the cleaning process. It can cause breathing difficulties in human, plus acid rain damage to the glands, aquatic systems, metal-related issues. Thermal inversions is the abnormal arrangement of air masses. Temperature inversion layers are also called as thermal inversions, or just inversion layers are the areas where the normal decreases in the air temperature. So actually it is a warmer layer of the air which is trapped between two layers of cold air that causes the pollutants to become trapped near the Earth's surface. It can form when the hills or the mountains stop horizontal wind, causing pollutant to collect over a city. Warm air collects over the polluted air, acting as a lid to stop the pollutant from being dispersed. So according to one case study in the London 1952, thermal inversion lasting several days resulted in the death of several thousand people that are most severely affecting the very old and young people. So these thermal inversions worsen any type of smoke. Second type of the smoke is called as modern smoke or photochemical smoke, which is caused by the nitrogen oxide, volatile organic compounds, hydrocarbons, and sunlight. It is often prevalent in some of the sunnier cities like USA, Los Angeles. This smoke can have ill effect on the body and cause coughing, heart palpitations, pneumonia, and lung cancer. This is actually the mechanism how the smoke is produced to create various pollution problems in our ecosystem. When nitrogen dioxide and hydrocarbons they react in the presence of sunlight, they will produce ozone, which is present in the stratosphere, and it is beneficial, but near the Earth's surface, it results in the global warming as it is a greenhouse gas. Haze is traditionally an atmospheric phenomenon where dust, smoke, and other dry particles obscure the clarity of the sky. For example, there is no condensation, so do not confuse these terms within the cloudy weather. The terms smog and haze, both of these are similar, but there is a condensation present in case of smog. Sources of these haze particles include forming, flooding in the dry weather, traffic, industry, and wildfires. Type 3 is called as volcanic smoke, which is produced when the gases and the particles are released from an erupting volcano, and these particles mix with the sunlight to produce oxygen and moisture. Some of the chemicals in these volcanic eruption smoke can be damaging to the environment, including animal, plant, human beings. And this type of the smoke commonly takes place in the Hawaiian Islands. There should be some precautionary measure in order to protect against this volcanic smoke. First one, do not smoke. Drink a lot of liquid in the form of warm fluids such as tea, soups. Bend forward at the waist slightly to make it easier to breathe. If possible, leave the infected area. Stay indoors, stay home, stay safe. Keep windows and doors closed. Using an air cleaner or the air purifier to reduce the effect of this volcanic smoke. There is a historic tragedy due to this smoke. For example, an inversion is occurred in London because of the cold December weather at that time. People of London, they began to burn more coal, which increased the air pollution in that city. Since the inversion was present over the city at the same time, these pollutants become trapped and increase London air pollution. And overall, at the end, the result was a great smog of 1952 that was blamed for thousands of deaths. Effects of smoke. As described earlier, it is harmful all the human beings, including plants, animals, and the nature as a whole. When a city or the town gets covered in the smoke, the effects are felt immediately. Direct effect on the health can be the minor pains to deadly diseases such as lung cancer. Smog is well known for causing irritation of the eyes, inflammation in the tissue of the lungs, giving rise to the pain in the chest. Other tissues or the illnesses such as cold and pneumonia may happen due to the bad effect of smog. Minor exposures can lead to the greater threats of asthma attacks. And smog also causes early or premature deaths. The highly affected people, including the old people, kids, and those with the cardiac and respiratory complications, as they have easy tendency to be at the disadvantages of asthma. If we talk about the agriculture, the smoke have also bad effect because the ground level ozone present in the smoke that inhibit the plant growth causes an immense damage to the crop and the forest. The growth of the plants will be stunted, their yield will be affected. The smog results in mortifying impacts on environment by killing many innumerable animal species, green life, as these take time to adapt to breathing and surviving in such toxic environments. Effect on modernization. Smog is a devastating problem, especially due to the fast modernization or industrialization, as the hazardous chemicals involved in the smog formation are highly reactive substances that are spreading around all over the ecosystem. So risk from the smog. Anyone who engages in strenuous outdoor activity, like jogging to the manual labor, they may suffer the smog-related health issues. Physical activity causes people to breathe faster and more deeply, exposing their lungs to more ozone and to get more pollutant inside the body. There are basically four groups of people that are particularly sensitive to the ozone and the other air pollutant which are present in the smoke. Number one are the children's. Number two, the adults who are active outdoor, that work all the day long outside their homes, their offices, their building, in the construction, in making roads, the people with the respiratory diseases, and the people with unusual susceptibility to the ozone, like people with asthma and other respiratory diseases that make the lungs more vulnerable to the effects of ozone, will generally experience health effects earlier and at lower ozone level than less sensitive individuals. So the people with the unusual susceptibility to ozone. For example, children. Active children spend a lot of time playing outside. So at that time of playing, they are more prone to the diseases like asthma. That is the most common chronic diseases for the children and may affect their respiratory system as well. Adults who are active outdoors may include all the laborers, workers. They have a very high level of exposure outside. People with the respiratory diseases. There will be no medical evidence that ozone in smoke causes asthma or other chronic respiratory diseases. But people who live with asthma and such diseases are more sensitive and vulnerable to the effects of ozone because they will experience adverse effects sooner and at lower level of exposure than those who are less sensitive. Elderly people are often warned to stay indoors on the heavy smoky days. According to the most recent medical evidence, elderly people are not at increased risk of adverse health effect from the smog. So how do we recognize or detect it? As the smog is the visible example of the air pollution. In addition, most cities measure the concentration of pollutant in the air and report the result to the public. Standardized measures have been established, like Air Quality Index, which compares the pollution level from the city to city. So here is the table of Air Quality Index that measure the quality of air in terms of the smog, and it also describes that if the air quality index will be high, how it will affect the different age group of the people. For example, if the air quality will be good only when the air quality index will be ranges from 0 to 50, having no health impacts, it is considered to be the moderate. When the values come between 51 to 100, usually sensitive people fall in this category, and these are their outdoor extensions who work all the time outside. So if the air quality index is between 101 to 150, it is considered to be unhealthy for the sensitive groups. In this category, active children, adults, people with the respiratory diseases, asthma, limited prolonged outdoor exposure. If the air quality index comes between 151 up to 200 times, this is most alarming situation of the people showing unhealthy behavior. Active children, adults, people with the respiratory diseases, they should limit the prolonged outdoor excursion. Everyone else, especially the children, should limit the prolonged outdoor excretion. If the air quality index is from 201 to 300 times yardstick, then the active children and adult people with the respiratory diseases, asthma, they should limit the prolonged outdoor exertion. Everyone else, especially the children, should limit the outdoor excursion. And this group of the people will be considered to as very unhealthy, and this is actually the alert case of air quality index. So this was all about the effect of air pollution on the different age group of people in terms of photochemical smoke and how it can be detected by means of air quality index. Thank you very much.